Hey guys, welcome back to the garage and welcome to 2023. Alright guys, welcome back, and for some of you who are new here, welcome. Basically I made this channel, sure, just a little bit of back history. I made the channel in 2019, 2020, and when the pandemic hit I thought I was going to have a ton of time and I'd work on my cars and everything would be great. But unfortunately with my job I really didn't miss any time from work. If anything, I worked more. And I was also in school at the time, so I really didn't have a lot of time. So until about 2021, 2022, that's when I really started making more videos and really getting more work done on my cars. So let's go ahead and we'll go back over the last year and see where I was when I started the year and where we are now. Alright guys, so if you were watching back in 2021, or if you've gone back and watched some of my old videos, you know that that year I particularly worked on the S2000. Now I bought the S2000 in June of 2021 as a salvage title car, and I went through the whole rebuild process and the inspections and all that work. And if you haven't, please feel free to go back and check out those videos. Some stuff was easy, some stuff was hard, some stuff was mostly just time. But that basically got me to the end of 2021, which is where I'll begin my 2022. Now, unfortunately, I didn't continue to work on the S2000 as much as I wanted, and that's mainly for two reasons. One, it actually really drives very well, and I didn't want to touch a whole lot. And two, I had a lot of other projects and decisions that I made, whether it was buying a new vehicle or starting a new project or continuing an old project or whatever it was. I just didn't work on that car as much as I would have liked. So I think that's one big takeaway from 2022 was I basically, I don't want to say I ignored the S2000, but I didn't work on it as much as I would have liked. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other projects that I did get to work on in 2022. So one of the first things I did in 2022 was basically, or I guess is really the end of 2021. So late December, early January, I purchased my 2008 Honda Civic Si. So if you haven't had a chance to watch some of these videos, this car was a basket case when I got it. It has super high mileage. A lot of the suspension and steering components were worn out and they've been replaced. And even the shifter bushings were bad. There was a lot of stuff that this car needed that I could do really quickly to kind of get it back to where it's a good daily driver and it's comfortable to drive. Now there is still one glaring issue that remains today, and that's how heavy and stiff the clutch is. So somebody put an extremely high, I'll say high performance in parentheses because I don't know how actual high performance it is, but it is very heavy clutch and it's very difficult to drive for the first time. Now if you drive it for a while like I do, you kind of get used to it. But the first couple of times that I drove it, it really was difficult to drive and it's difficult to get used to, and it's a lot of work for a daily driver. So I am on the fence about selling the car, just looking at what I have coming up over the next year or two and where the car fits into like my future big scheme. I'm really just considering selling it just because I don't know what I want to do with it long term, or if I even want to do anything with it long term. The one thing I do know is that if I do keep it, I am going to change the clutch. It is going to happen. So it's really whatever comes first at this point, whether I sell it or whether I keep it. The clutch is going to go if it stays. So moving on from there, let's take a look at some of the other projects that I worked on aside from the Civic Si. Alright guys, so one of the most popular video series or vehicles that I worked on this year in YouTube was basically my Honda Element. So I was going to replace the motor mounts and I wasn't even 100% sure if I was going to record it or not. So at the last minute I decided, you know what, well, if I'm going to do it, I might as well record it. And sure enough, that's been my most popular video this year. It's definitely had the most likes and definitely had the most watches and watch time, as well as a lot of feedback. A lot of people saying how helpful it was and how much they've looked through the internet and this was really the best video they could find and that they were really appreciative. And I really figure that if I'm not popular yet, the biggest thing I can do is be helpful. So between that video and some of the old S2000 videos with like the salvage title and stuff like that, I've really gotten the most feedback about that particular video, changing the motor mounts on the Element. I also went through and changed a majority of the suspension components, as well as doing little stuff like accessory installs and things of that nature. So if you haven't seen those videos, check out my Element playlist on my page, and hopefully that helps you out if that's what you're looking for. But let's go ahead and move on to some of the other projects that I touched this year. Alright guys, so one of the deepest, darkest rabbit holes that I've actually been down in a while, as far as automotive goes, is definitely this 94 Honda Civic hatchback. It's going to be a very comprehensive build. As you guys have seen, there's been a lot of legwork just to get everything deconstructed and lay the groundwork for everything that's going to get done in the future. And really, to get to this point, it's been a lot of work with not a lot of content. So watching me sand and watching me take things apart is not very interesting, especially when I haven't gotten to putting them back together yet. But I think we're finally at the point in the build where things are going to start going back together. The couple of issues that I really have with this build are, one, that they're moving very slow. I just haven't had the free time that I would like, and when I do have free time, I'm not always in the mood to work on this car. So it's really been trying to get to push myself to make more progress on this car. But the transmission has been taken apart and the engine's ready to go back together, and there's a lot of things that need to happen separately before I can start putting everything back together and start having one tangential build back going on. So there's definitely been a lot going on, and there's definitely a lot more to come. Like I said, I have a ton of parts, I have a ton of work to do. So if you're interested in this build and you want to see more, definitely drop me a comment. But other than that, just stay tuned, because there's definitely more coming, especially over the next year or two. Want to get it running and driving on its own, and then we can start going from there with exterior, interior, brakes, wheels, whatever, and that'll take it from there. So the real forgotten project, or forgotten vehicle in this case, for 2022 has really been the Miata, and it's not any fault of the Miata. Obviously having the S2000 has kind of cut in a little bit into the times where I would be driving the Miata. So if we want to take it out on a sunny day, we kind of, okay, do you want the Miata, do you want the S2000, like what do we take? And I also really try to only drive or work on the Miata when I'm with my wife, since both of our cars, we both own it, we both work on it, we try to do everything together, and I try to keep it that way as much as possible. Now, if it needs something, if it's broken, it needs repairs, that's one thing. But as far as the modifications and stuff like that, we do have a stack of parts. Some stuff still left over from the year before. So we have headlights, bumper, soft top. Definitely want to finish more of like a custom rear interior setup. So a lot of that stuff will come this year, if not early in the year, then hopefully later in the year, when some of the other stuff gets cleared up. But it definitely is coming. So if you want to see more of that, drop me a comment, and I'll try to go a little bit more out of my way to either get her to come and help me, or have her just be like, you know, you can do it on your own. But most of it's been like, hey, this is our car together, we want to do everything together, whether it's driving it, working on it, whatever. So that's basically where that car has kind of fallen down a little bit on the pecking order of what car I'm going to work on or what car I'm going to drive. So that pretty much wraps up all my vehicles, I think, for this year. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stuff coming up next year, hopefully. Alright guys, so with wrapping up 2022, that obviously brings us into focus for 2023. So like you've seen in the video, there's definitely a lot more work that needs to get done. This project with the hatchback is really going to be a priority. I do want to get it running and driving over the next couple of months so that I can ultimately get it moving in and out of the garage and allow me to work on some other vehicles. So the good thing about that is the more I get done with this, the more I can focus on other cars. The other thing that's looming large, one of the reasons that I was making this video as well, is that I am getting another car. It's a car that I'm really familiar with, maybe not in a technical sense, but the physical car, I've been familiar with it for about 10 years. And it's a friend of mine, and I've been harassing him for years, and he finally called me the other day and said, hey, maybe it's time, let's see what happens. So I may be getting that car, and of course with getting new cars, obviously there's space and time and money, so that may mean the departure of another vehicle. I think we can all figure out which one that is, but ultimately I just want to try to get more work done and try to get more progress on each of these vehicles. And if you guys have anything to add, I like to read all the comments, and I like the feedback, and I like back and forth. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, you know, suggestions, whatever it is, whether it's how I can do a better video, or how to build a better car, or maybe I'm doing something wrong, or maybe I'm doing something right, that you want to see more of. So just reach out, let me know. I'm pretty open and I try to respond to everything. So just want to take this time and thanks everyone who has subscribed, and thank you to anyone who will subscribe in the future. So go ahead and like, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.